I love the fall for many reasons, and among them, it's the perfect time of year to break out your favorite turkey recipes, whether it be for Thanksgiving or for the holidays, and today's recipe is no exception. It is one of my absolute favorite. We are doing a compound butter injected turkey that we're gonna spin on the JoeTisserie on the Big Joe. Let's get into it. Hey, I'm James from Smokin' Dad Barbecue, and today we are making one of my absolute favorite fall to early winter cooks, which is a butter injected turkey. This is a method and recipe I've never shared on the channel before. A year ago, I was focused on highlighting the different techniques. So I did a head-to-head spatchcock versus rotisserie, and spoiler alert, if you haven't had a chance to see that video yet, the rotisserie won for tenderness and flavor. So we're jumping straight to that now that we've got our methods sorted out, and we want to up the game here a little bit in terms of the flavor profile. But before I bring you up to speed on everything that we've done to get our turkey ready, since prep started yesterday, I'll fill you in on that in just a second. I want to get some heat into the Big Joe. So I'm going to bring you close now, and we're going to load up our Big Joe with some fuel and get some heat so I can then fill you in on everything you need to do leading into turkey cook. All right, we've already got a nice clean empty basket, and I've banked all the remaining charcoal that I had towards the back. Air likes to move this direction in a Kamado anyway, so if you're going to be banking your coals, you have a choice: left, right, front, back. I find the back works the best, as that's the natural air draw for air in a Kamado style grill. So that's why I'm going to the back. Let me grab some more charcoal and cover that up. So now that we've packed that fresh Fogo towards the back, let me grab our Grill Blazer grill gun, get a fire going, and I'm going to concentrate the fire right down here in the front lower area, because again, it's going to work its way to our back, and then the fresher coal will start to heat and fall down on that. We're going to be moving this charcoal around a lot, which I'll explain a little bit later why that's so fun and also a key part of pulling off the perfect turkey. But for now, we're just going to light our fire front and center down low here. So that looks good. We've got some white ashed over coals. Elapsed time is about 1 minute. I know I took you fast forward there, but that's about 1 minute of the torch. And we've already got some nice white ashing over coals. That's good. We'll just leave our bottom vent all the way open, close our dome, and open our top vent all the way and just let that come up to temperature. I'm gonna wait to make any adjustments till I see about 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So now that we've got our fire lit in our Big Joe, I have a couple minutes while we wait for that to come up to temperature just to fill you in on a couple other differences that we're gonna go with for today's turkey cook. So the first one you may have noticed is Fogo as my charcoal versus my normal Jealous Devil or Kamado Joe Big Block. I'm a big fan of both of those charcoals depending on the type of cook that I'm doing. When it comes to poultry of any kind, the family has preferred the taste test of a lower smoke profile that I get from Fogo versus some of those stronger profiles. If you've not heard this analogy before, this is more like a really sort of mild, gentle coffee. The first time you have coffee, everybody would like that one, where Jealous Devil and Kamado Joe are a little bit more like that Starbucks bold flavor. I like Starbucks bold flavor. I drink my coffee black. I like big, bold red wines. But for family, friends, and guests, especially around the holidays, for those uninitiated to smoke, some of the biggest mistakes I made early on was going way overboard with smoke. So it was about 12 years ago to the day that I smoked my first turkey in a Kamado style grill. It happened to be a large Big Green Egg. I don't even think Kamado Joe was a company at the time. And I followed a recipe to the T, which had me adding soaked wood chips all the way through the cook, and I was so excited to see how this bird would come out, and we ended up discarding it. Everybody in the family was pretty disgusted by the putrid smoke profile that we got following this recipe. And this, over time, I learned is way too much smoke. Soaking your wood chips doesn't do anything to improve the smoke. It just puts off, white steam. And lastly, poultry is one of the most sensitive proteins to smoke. You can way overdo it. And so we are going to try and give ourselves a little bit more control over smoke. I might add a few smoking wood chips into the draft door, which is a new method I've been playing with and getting some great results. But outside of that, I want to control the smoke profile the best I can, which is why Fogo gets the nod for today's cook. Now, for the bird, we started preparing this yesterday. Here's what you need to do about a day in advance. So I owe a debt of gratitude to two sources for helping me improve and sort of unlock great turkey on a Kamado style grill. And so the first is the book Salt, Fat, Acid, Heat. If you haven't seen that on Netflix or picked up a copy of the book, I highly recommend it. And the second is an article I'll link down below, but it came out a few years ago in the New York Times, and I think it's called The Rise and Fall of Turkey Brining. And it just highlighted a bunch of chefs who have abandoned liquid brining and moved to salt brining. And a couple of the key reasons are exactly my experiences. While a wet brine helps impart wonderful flavors into the meat, wet skin, soggy skin is hard to get crispy. In fact, not even hard. I don't even think it hardly ever works out to the same degree that you get with a salt dry brine. A salt dry brine, on the other hand, it's a lot quicker, a lot cheaper, and a lot less mess to clean up in terms of making all the brine, getting a turkey in a big container and setting it overnight, since all that's involved is just putting on some Diamond Crystal kosher salt and let that sit in the fridge overnight. But this year, we're taking it up one more level. I'm not gonna just dry brine it with Diamond Kosher Crystal Salt. We have a special treat in store, which I'll fill you in on right now. So quick recap, we already got the JoeTisserie is the best method, salt brine I've tested, best method. So jumping right into now the butter injection, what we're doing new for this year's turkey is I'm making a compound butter. And so to do that, I'm just melting down a stick of butter using my conduction top here on the counter. And then as that melts, I'm gonna add in a few extra ingredients. And so I'm going for about 5-6 cloves of garlic. And if I had some thyme or rosemary, I would do that, but I still had some leftover oregano from another recipe. Okay, our compound butter is ready and it's cooled off a little bit. So I've just got a second jar that I can pour a little bit into at a time. So that way, if there's any leftover, I don't need to have the raw meat touching it and I have to throw it all out. So we'll just add to that as we go. So for the steps, I'm just going to pat this dry with some paper towel. Sorry, some construction next door. And then retruss this back up. So we'll get all the internals out, pat it dry, retie it, and then we'll be ready to add our rub as well as start injecting with some butter. I'll take you fast forward while we get all this going. Okay, so we have our turkey nice and trussed up so that the wings will stay tucked, the legs will stay nice and tight. So when we have this on the spit and it's spinning, nothing will be flopping around. Now we're gonna get to injecting all over the breast and the thighs, and then we'll apply our rub. Gonna work in a little pocket like this, inject, and you'll see this puff right up. That's exactly what we want. So that looks good. Our turkey is all pumped up. So now I'm just gonna add some Diamond Kosher Crystal Salt and then a little bit of herb and garlic mix. If you were to make this up, it's very similar to my homemade rub. I just happen to have this handy. So the ingredients here, garlic, onions, celery, and oregano and parsley and rosemary. So very complementary to what we've got in our butter. I just happen to have this pre-made. So we're just gonna get a nice layer of salt on all sides as well as our rub and put this in the fridge to dry brine. So that looks good. Let's put it in the refrigerator to dry brine. So I pulled our turkey out of the refrigerator about an hour before starting this cook, just so it could start to shake off some of that chill from the refrigerator overnight. And our Big Joe is nearly up to temperature. So to get our turkey ready to go on the JoeTisserie, we're just gonna slide our spit through as well as install 2-meter probes. I'll do one at the front and the back, just so I can get a sense of where we are on the temperature at different spots. And we can adjust the heat signature within the Joe by moving those coals around if need be, a little bit later on. Let me take you fast forward while we get everything installed. All right, our grill has hit 300 degrees and I'm feeling heat through the dome. Not too much with the high heat gloves, but I can still feel a little bit of that. So now I think we'll install our JoeTisserie, get our bird on, and adjust our vents. Start by placing the JoeTisserie on the grill, plug it in, grab our turkey. So now that we have those nice and tight, we can turn on the JoeTisserie, shut our dome, And for adjusting the dome, the JoeTisserie lets in a little bit more air than normal. And so for 300 degrees, while we might often be, just about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch past the first line with one finger, we're actually going to go 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch on the left-hand side of that first line, and that should hold about 300 to 350 degrees for today's cook. So before we adjust our bottom draft door, I haven't forgotten about that smoke trick I mentioned, and that's where we're going to use the ash drawer as our smoke wood chip loader. So you can see we're getting some coals falling down, a little bit of sparks into our ashtray, and this has actually worked really well, where if I load some wood chips, I've just got some mild apple here for flavor. When we check back on these a little bit later, these will be looking just like charcoal. So we're gonna get nice, clean smoke without overdoing it on our bird. So that's good. We can add more if we feel like it later, but I think that is going to be plenty. Less is more when it comes to smoke on poultry. So load that in, I'll show you what it looks like from the top. So there you go, you can see our bird spinning, and those charcoal chips that we've loaded are right in the back there, right below the coals that are ignited. So as they start to fall down, they'll help smolder that wood. It'll come up through that hot fire nice and clean and put off some great smoke. 300 to 350 degrees Fahrenheit is about the perfect temperature I found for doing a rotisserie turkey or even chicken. I found if you go at higher temperatures, the outside looks stunning. But when you check deep inside near the bones, that the meat is still raw, and that's because we're getting too much heat on the outside, so we're overdone on the outside and underdone on the inside. That's why I found going lower temperature, like 300 to 350 degrees, letting the dome get heat soaked so we take advantage of that radiant heat that we're getting off of the ceramic, cooks the meat more equally all the way through. And once we start to approach our finishing temperature, if that skin needs a little work, fear not, we'll be able to open the vents and let those flames fly to finish crisping up the skin. I'll rejoin you in a little bit when it's time to start working on our sides. Okay, it's been about an hour. Let's take a look at our smoke drawer idea here. And that looks like most of our wood chips have burnt up or turned into charcoals. That's good. So I will, at this point, take the opportunity just to add a couple more. Again, not too much. We just want light, clean smoke. So my meter probe just let me know we're about 45-50 minutes away from this cook being done, getting ready to rest. So I think it's the perfect time to throw our squash on. Yep, we're gonna do some extra cooking even with the JoeTisserie. I'll show you how we can cook our sides at the exact same time. But first, let's prep our squash. I'll bring you nice and close while we split it open, add some butter and brown sugar, and get ready to throw it on the Big Joe 3. So this is really simple. We're just gonna split this squash in half. Like so. And then we'll scoop out these seeds so we don't have that. Then we're gonna replace the seeds with butter and brown sugar. I'll take you fast forward while we get these ready. All right, perfect. So these are both ready. All I'm gonna do now, drop in a cube or two of butter in each one, and then we could sprinkle that with some brown sugar. So our turkey is already looking awesome. Let me reposition the camera nice and close. I'll show you how we're gonna drop a grid on the front of our firebox so we have some extra space to cook these without interfering with the JoeTisserie. Okay, we are clicking along right at 350 degrees and our bird is looking awesome. Great color so far on that. So all I'm gonna do at this point is just work a grid underneath my bird here and sneak this onto the firebox. Let me move you a little closer so you can see. So it's just sitting right there, and now that'll give us a bit of a surface that we can drop on our squash. Squash number one. Perfect. Squash number two. Perfect. Close the lid. Keep cooking. All right, we're getting down to the short strokes of our holiday feast. Meter says there's maybe about 20 minutes or so till we reach our target temperature of 165 degrees. So I want to now just start checking a few different spots We picked 2 different areas of the bird, but I want to check the dark meat, the white meat, and a few different areas and just see if I need to adjust any of our hot spots. If we do that, we're going to rake the coals around to move that heat signature so we don't overcook one portion of the bird and potentially undercook another portion. Let me bring it nice and close. We'll check it out together and see if we need to make any of these adjustments. All right, let's take a look. Whew, sure does look pretty. So once we come around here, I can get access to the leg. I'll just stop our JoeTisserie. Okay, so let's check here. So very similar to the meter, we're at about 150 degrees. So we are definitely within that 10-20 minutes. I'll just give this an opportunity to continue cooking and we'll get it off and let it rest for about 10 minutes. Forgot to check the dark meat here. Dark meat's looking good. It's at 169. So that is about right where we want it to. So it's gonna go just a touch over that in this last 10 minutes on the grill, but that's nothing I'm worried about. So let's get our JoeTisserie back on and we'll let that keep on spinning. So as there's only 10 minutes or so remaining in this cook, even though the bird is looking fantastic, I think the skin can take a little bit more. We didn't need to move our coals around front, back, side to side as everything is cooking really evenly, but I am going to take the opportunity maybe just to crisp that skin up a little bit. So for the last 10 minutes, we'll go vent open and let those flames kiss up a little bit higher and crisp up that skin for a great presentation. All right, our bird is done. Oh, that looks so good. All right, let's get that off. It's had enough time to cook. Turn off our JoeTisserie here. Pull this right off. Look at that, spinning around. Beautiful. Let's let this rest. And let's check our squash here for tenderness. So that could use a little bit more time. So I think I'm just gonna leave the squash in while the turkey's resting for about 10 minutes. Check this other one here. Yep, same thing. So those can both use a little bit more time, but they're close. So we'll just let them be while our turkey rests. Our turkey's done. Our squash looks and feels tender. Can't wait to dig into it. Let me bring you nice and close while we prep our squash, get it into a serving bowl, and take our first few slices of our chicken here so we can do our taste test. So first we'll just dump any leftover butter and sugar we have into our bowl, and then use a spoon. We'll scoop out the flesh. Oh, so soft. Okay, perfect. Let's get a slice or two of our bird. All right, for the best part, let's dig in for our taste test. I'm gonna start with a little bit of the squash here. As a kid, I hated squash. Apparently, all it was missing is to be lovingly cooked over open fire, seasoned with lots of butter and some brown sugar, because that is delicious. Let's start with a piece of our white meat here. Get a little bit over the breast. So juicy. This is the best turkey I've ever cooked. And so, quick recap of what we changed. We already knew the JoeTisserie would do a great job. We already knew salt brining would do a good job. What we did different this year is infusing our butter with some aromatics and garlic and injected our bird. And this is just pouring still out with juice and flavor. And the white meat here is tender, juicy, and the smoke is right on point. So I'm so happy with this balanced smoke, going with Fogo for charcoal and just a few little apple chips into the drawer. Added them one extra time, so there was 2 loads in the entire cook. And this is what I think my family will say they were looking for all along when it comes to a smoked turkey. It's there, but it's not the first thing that hits your palate really aggressively if you're not initiated to the smoke profile. And I think this would be the perfect meal to share with friends and family. I hope you really enjoyed today. If you did, please let YouTube know by smashing the thumbs up button, and let me know by hitting subscribe to catch future videos, and or consider joining my membership page where I go live monthly one-on-one, where we can answer your questions in a little bit more intimate fashion than the pre-recorded videos. Until next time, I'm James from Smokin' Dad Barbecue signing off. And remember, don't be afraid to fire it up.